Hello everyone, welcome to the new video tutorial of Stutor's. In the last session we have dealt about fruits and seeds. In this session we will be concluding the chapter with describing a flower. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, subscribe to it and enable the bell icon to get daily notification. So without wasting time, let's get on with the video. So, description of a flower. In your textbook, you might feel what is the necessary of describing a flower. You have already learned about the morphology of flower. So what is the need? The importance is that if you're going to the field of taxonomy or any field related to botany or plant sciences, you might discover new plants. So, suppose you become a taxonomist and you are in research and you find a new flower or plant, you need to present it in front of a scientific community. At that time, you need to provide a description of flower, and a plant. So before going to how we describe a flower, first we need to set of rules, that is how we should describe a flower. Now the first one is that it has to be brief. You need not use long sentences like it is a tree with long leaves, nothing like that. It has to be brief, it has to be scientific and present in a proper sequence. So there's a proper sequence, there's a present order in which you should describe a flower or a plant. So that is a importance of presented in a proper sequence. Now, while describing a flower, what all should be included? The first one is habit. Suppose the plant is a shrub, or suppose the plant is a tree. You need to write the habit. You have to write the habit. It's a tree or shrub or a herb, whatever it is. You need to mention what habit is there. Now, second one is vegetative characters. So the vegetative characters include stem, leaves, and roots. So you need to mention which type of fruit, taproot or fibrous root. The stem, if it is woody or herbaceous, that you should mention, and the leaves, the phyllotaxy you should mention is if it has a reticulate venation, it has a parallel venation, you should mention that. The type of phyllotaxy also should be mentioned. So that is what is included in the vegetative characters. And then comes the floral characters, that is the inflorescence and the parts of a flower. The inflorescence should be, should mention if it is racemose or it should be cymose, you should mention which type of inflorescence that particular flower has. And finally, the parts of flower, that you should mention the arrangement of calyx, corolla, androecium, and gynoecium and all. So what is the arrangement and what is the relation with other words of flower? So like that, and all should be mentioned. So this is the order. This particular thing is what we call as a description of a flower. And after describing a flower, suppose you find new type of plant and also you discover a flower in it. And first thing, you describe the flower like this. The habit, if it is herb, you should mention that it is a herb. Then vegetative characters, then floral characters. After this comes the floral diagram and floral formula. So before going to the floral diagram and floral formula, first let's take an example and describe a flower. Now let's describe a flower using taking an example. Pardon me for writing filling the board like this. There was no space. Let me explain to you in a simple way. So we are taking the flower hibiscus, that is belongs to the family Malvaceae. So first, when you have to describe a flower, we have to mention systematic position of a plant. So in the case of hibiscus, it belongs to the angiosperm. It belongs to the class Dicotyledons, subclass Polypetalae, that is the petal is polypetalous, that is the petals are free, so it belongs to the Polypetalae subclass. And the seed is Thalamiflorae. Thalamiflorae means the importance is given to thalamus, something special is there in the thalamus of the plant. And the order Malvaceae and the family Malvaceae. So we have to mention class, subclass, series, order, family. And after the systematic position, you have to describe the morphology of flower. That's the vegetative characters and the floral characters. The habit, as we all know, hibiscus is a shrub. So it belongs to the, we have written as habit as shrub. You have seen the flower and the plant also. Next one is stem. If you remember properly, the stem is woody. As the nature of a shrub, and the stem is round. Round means the shape of the stem, if you remember properly, it is round in shape, almost round. So we can write here it is round. And the leaves, coming on to the leaf part, it has a simple leaf. You all know that is it's not belongs to the compound leaf category. It has a simple leaf. And the phyllotaxy, if you know, it has an alternate phyllotaxy, that is a single leaf arises from each node alternatively. So it has an alternate phyllotaxy, and the venation of the leaf is a reticulate venation because it belongs to the dicotyledons. And the margin of the leaf, that is the tip of the leaf, is serrated margin, the pointed end like that, so it has a serrated margin. So these all characters can be written by simply looking at the plant. You have to, what you all see from the plant itself, you can write here. Then coming on to the floral characters, the first one you have to mention is inflorescence and the parts of flower one by one. The inflorescence is solitary cyme. That is a type of cymose inflorescence. Only a single flower is seen. So it is belongs to the category of solitary cyme. And next, the flower, you have to describe the flower briefly. That is just a morphology of flower. It is bisexual, as you all know, because there both male and female reproductive structures are seen. And it is hypogynous, that it had a superior ovary, and it is pentamerous, means 5 or multiples of 5 is seen in the calyx or corolla. So as we all know, the calyx and corolla is 5 in number, so it is pentamerous and it is actinomorphic, that is it is radially symmetrical. Now coming on to the parts one by one, that is calyx, corolla, androecium, gynoecium. I have written the gynoecium here because of lack of space. So the first one is calyx. As we all know, the calyx is sepals is 5 in number, so that is pentamerous, and it is gamosepalous, it's all fused, and the estivation is valvate, that is the tip end of each sepal is jointed with each other but does not overlap each other. And the corolla, that is the petal, it is also 5 in number, and the estivation is twisted. The estivation is seen at the bud stage. If you remember properly, it has a twisted estivation, that is each petal overlaps each other, and it is polypetalous. The petals are free. That's why it belongs to the plus polypetalic. And the androecium, it is numerous in number. If you see the flower itself, there is a numerous stamens which is attached to a single column, that is monodelphous condition. It is arranged to a single column that is monodelphous. And coming on to the gynoecium, it is pentacarpellary, that is 5 carpels are seen. It is all fused, hence it is syncarpous, and as we have mentioned before, it has superior ovary, and the placentation is axile placentation. So these are features, that is gynoecium's feature cannot be seen after the cross section of the gynoecium. So first, when you get a flower, you have to describe the flower by morphology. First you have to look at the plant itself. A small twig of the plant will be given to you, and you have to see what is the nature of the plant, flower and plant first itself, that is habit, stem, leaf, and all can be written after that. Then you take the flower and look at the morphology of flower. You see the inflorescence and the morphology of flower, and you write the first inflorescence and flower characters, and then one by one you peel off the each word of the flower and you describe the calyx, corolla, and androecium. And when you finally reach the gynoecium, you look at the morphology and then you write it. Then you take the CS of the ovary, and you can, after taking the CS of ovary, you can mount it in a simple microscope, and you can see the placentation and the syncarpous condition, and you can write like that. So that is how simply we can write the description of a flower. Now let's see how we write about in floral characters, the floral diagram and floral formula. So now coming on to the floral formula. Floral formula is nothing but a symbolic representation of the parts of a flower, or simply representing a flower using symbols. And floral diagram is diagrammatically representation the arrangement and relations of each flower worlds with each other. Now the first one we are discussing about floral formula. The thing is that these are symbols. The first one is BR, it represents for bract, whether bract is present or not. This symbol is actinomorphic, and this symbol represents as zygomorphic, and this is for female and male, and if you are presenting both in one, it is bisexual. And K for calyx, and C for corolla, A for androecium, and G for gynoecium. And if there is a line under the G, it means the ovary is superior. If the line is in middle of the G, it represents a perigynous condition or half inferior ovary. And if the line is above the G, it represents inferior condition, inferior ovary. And if there's a line connecting each word, it means adhesion is there. If there's a line connecting A and G, there's androecium, gynoecium, there's an adhesion. And if the corolla or calyx is fused, that is gamosepalous condition is there, that means you have to represent number in a bracket. So that is what it represents, fused condition, that is the gamosepalous condition is represented like that. If no bracket is there, that means it's polypetalous condition. So these are the briefly how we can represent the formula of a flower, or the symbols are present here. Now let's see what a floral diagram is. So okay, now the floral diagram, we have discussed about the floral formula. Now we have to discuss how a floral diagram is represented. The first one we represent in the outer form is the calyx. Calyx is represented like this. So the individual, this whole thing is known as calyx, and the individual portion, this one is known as the sepal. And sepal is represented in this form, this particular form. So how many sepals are there? It is represented as in a round form. Usually 5 sepals are there, and the whole thing is known as calyx. Now based upon the estivation, that is maybe vexillary, or it may be valvate or twisted, you should represent like that. So I have represented a simple polypetsepalous condition, it is not joined. If it is joined or it is in gamma stage, you should represent it like this. It should be jointed like this. And accordingly, if it is a twisted estuation, the estuation should be represented as we have discussed in the before portions. Now, the second one you should represent inside this calyx is a corolla. Corolla is represented like this, and this individual unit is known as the petal. And it is colored, the color, it may be colored yellow or red, whatever it may be. So, the individual unit is known as petal, and it is represented like this. Usually 5 petals are there. And accordingly, if it is gamma, it should be represented like this, jointed, and if it is free, it should be represented as free, which we represented before. Now, accordingly, here also you should represent the estuation that we have discussed before. That may be twisted or valvate or whatever it may be, you should represent similarly. Now, next comes the androecium, which is inside this. Next to the corolla is the androecium. It is the individual unit is represented like this, and if it is free, it is represented down in this manner. And if it is joined, that is the petals, the androeciums or stamens are joined, it should be connected like this. Now, if it is joined to the petal, like this symbol is represented. That is, it means that it is joined to the petal. So that is how we represent it. Now, next comes the gynoecium. If the gynoecium is monocarpellary, it is represented like this, and if it is tricarpellary, for taking the example as bicarpellary, and this syncarpus is represented like this. So it is there is an ovary, and the syncarpus, it is represented like this. A tricarpellary ovary is represented in this way. So that's the general representation. That is a general vague idea that I have given of how we can represent a gynoecium, a corolla, an androecium or calyx in a floral diagram. Now, taking all this one, we represent a single floral diagram that we can discuss while taking the example of each 3 families that we have learned. So in that session, that when we are discussing the families, the 3 families and then the floral diagram, I will completely describe how we can represent the floral diagram of a flower of that family in detail. So this is just a representation, how we can represent each part of a floral diagram that I have mentioned here. So that's all for today's video. If you have any doubt or confusions, please comment below. So wait till next video. Bye.